Shalom from Jerusalem. The situation in Russia, home to an estimated 500,000 Jews, is deteriorating rapidly, prompting many Jews and others to look at options for leaving the country. On Monday, things just got a little bit worse when President Vladimir Putin signed an order for the Federal Security Services, FSB, to increase its surveillance of Russian borders, as well as ordinary Russian citizens. Largely due to the brutal war in Ukraine and the economic and political uncertainty in Russia, latest figures show that well over 65,000 Jews have made Aliyah this year, with some 80% coming from the former Soviet republics. This is nearly double the number of Jewish immigrants to Israel in recent years. Work must be intensified through border services and the Federal Security Service, FSB, Putin says. Any attempts to violate it, like crossing the border, will be thwarted quickly and effectively stop with whatever forces, whatever means we have at our disposal, including mobilizing these mobile action units and special forces. In the past, the announcement of such measures in Russia usually meant increased persecution of minorities, including Jews. We're hoping that Moscow Ministry of Justice will not be able to shut down the Jewish agency there in Russia and therefore seriously hinder the possibility of Russian Jews to make Aliyah to Israel. The court adjourned to February 17th the hearing of this lawsuit for the liquidation of the Jewish agency there in Moscow. This decision was made at the request of the defendant's representative, who said that the Moscow Ministry of Justice did not register yet this change in the Jewish agency's organization charter. So they needed more time until the court case. Meanwhile, in America, U.S. President Joe Biden speaks out against anti-Semitism, the rise at a White House ceremony to honor the festival of Hanukkah that included guests from leadership of America's Jewish community as well as Israel's diplomats. This year's Hanukkah arrivals home to the Promised Land in the midst of rising anti-Semitism at home and around the world, says Joe Biden. The lighting of the candles here at the White House in Hanukkah, he says, I recognize your fear, your hurt, your worry. Mike Herzog says a special thank you to the American president for the menorah lighting ceremony there in the White House. After 75 years of ties, Israel has no greater friend than the United States. He says we must continue to work together to strengthen bipartisan ties and bring our two nations together even stronger. Now back here in Israel, the big story this week is the imminent deadline of incoming Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to manage to form a governing coalition. That's been a major hurdle, and many believe that a major hurdle to that goal was overcome on Tuesday when it emerged that ultra-Orthodox parties have dropped their demand for the grandfather clause in the law of return to be abolished. The specific clause, allows anyone with at least one Jewish grandparent to make Aliyah. And this has allowed hundreds of thousands of individuals, mostly from the former Soviet Union, to immigrate to Israel despite not technically having one Jewish immediate parent, just grandparent, according to the halakha, which is these rabbinical rulings that govern Orthodox Jewish life. Strong opposition was voiced by the leadership of the political opposition, even from Likud MKs, as well as nearly the entire American Jewish community. The law of return is a bedrock of Zionism, says head of the Conference of Presidents of major American Jewish organizations in the conference, according to Times of Israel. Our forebears took Nuremberg laws, which is Hitler's laws about who to kill. He's Jewish enough to be killed, but yet these people are no longer Jewish enough to come to Israel and make Aliyah? Unacceptable, they say. President Isaac Herzog, who formerly led the Jewish Agency, also signaled his own disapproval of the idea. So what does all this mean? Conditions for Jewish people in the diaspora, particularly in Eastern Europe, even traditional safe havens like democratic countries that are Western, are deteriorating, rapidly deteriorating. At the same time, there is hope that conditions in Israel will improve and continue to improve. The law of return, which was designed to ensure that Israel will be a safe haven for Jewish people fleeing persecution and other problems, appears to have been preserved, at least for now, despite a radical shift in Israel's political landscape and following the last election. The number of Jewish people around the world who have opened an Aliyah file with the Jewish Agency is at an historic all-time high. While not every single person who opens a file will follow through and really make Aliyah to Israel, many will. And the Jewish Agency truly, along with the government of Israel, is operating at high tempo to just handle these sheer numbers and to not overwhelm their capacity. That's why private initiatives like the Aliyah Return Center are so important. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to keeping you posted as to the latest developments that relate to Aliyah and return and restoration. God bless you from the land of Israel.